and say hello, and welcome to Victorian Britain in London in 1888. That's where we're going to be starting, guys, for Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is normally set in the 1920s in America. However, we are going to be playing... My picture is really weird. We are going to be playing in London in 1888, and tonight what we're going to be doing is making up some characters, or talking about characters and how they're all going to fit together and what we hope to get out of it. Now just to let you know, it is... Sorry, I'm going to have to change my picture because it's top heavy and I hate it. Bottom. There we go. Ooh, no, not that. Oh, I've moved the whole background screen now. Don't you just hate it when that happens?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what's wrong with Zoom. It's really annoying me at the moment.
Stop messing. Leave it. There we go. You zoomed out a bit now. We can actually see you.
Yeah, I'll leave it there. Okay, so the adventure that you're going to take place in is going to be in London, Victorian Britain, and it's going to be January 1888. Now, just to give you an idea what's happening, Kaiser Wilhelm II has just begun reign in Germany. Britain has actually established a protectorate over Sarawak, wherever that is, in North Borneo. And you will also... the alternating current for the electric motor has just been invented or developed. The first Kodak camera has been marketed, and a pneumatic bicycle tyre has been patented. National Geographic begins publication, and a book of 1,000 Nights and a Night by Sir Richard Burton was published. Now, the interesting thing about 1888 is that later on in the year, the infamous Jack the Ripper starts to terrorise London. However, this is not... We're in January at the moment, so it'll probably be that as we progress through the adventures, you might actually get become in contact with the notorious Jack the Ripper. So that would be an interesting thing to start off with. Now, we're going to do some character generation. We're going to see what people want. We've actually got several books open left, right and centre. So this is Gaslight, which is back to front on my camera, which is the Call of Cthulhu role-playing book for the 1980s. And then we've got 7th edition, but unfortunately Gaslight is actually 3rd edition, I think it is. So we're going to have to be quite creative. Okay, guys, so what's the plan? What sort of characters do you think you want to make up, and how are you going to sort of like interact together?
I am dead set on playing a private investigator, or perhaps more accurately called an inquiry agent.
Okay, cool. And are you going to be an American in Britain, or are you going to be British?
That's a good question. I didn't even consider that.
It depends which accent you can do the best.
I'm not great with voices. I'm going to try a voice, but I think it's probably more of an American voice. So I'll say that because I kind of want my character to be a little disgraced, not like high on the detective chain.
Okay.
And I have a little bit of tragedy in my background. We'll figure that out later, though.
Excellent.
Are you going to be a private detective working independently, or are you going to be part of the constabulary in Victorian times, like Bow Street Runner or something like that?
I'd prefer private investigation, just because I think that'll give more freedom to solve things creatively, and without having that reliance on a
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So you're almost like a private investigator, and I was just thinking, if you were in Britain, in London, it'd be interesting to see why you're here, whether or not you're following something, or come to see someone, or something like that, which can be sort of like within your background. What about you, Chugs? What's your character idea?
Well, originally when we had actually discussed characters, because on Saturday night, rather than playing Mithras,
Yeah.
we got together just to quickly discuss character concept, because we wanted to try to get it so that the three characters, and taking into account Longshanks playing as well, actually covered various roles.
Yeah,
So
good
the
idea.
original idea was to have Mr. Pickles' character, and then we were going to have Longshanks EPG playing the almost like a doctor pathologist, a forensic
Yeah.
scientist, because of course forensics had just started to come into play in the Victoria era.
Yeah.
The third character, which was going to be my character, was going to be more of a lower class character, providing access to more of the street skills. So probably something like a freelance criminal,
Okay. Yeah.
who. Well, the original concept was that he was going to be a freelance criminal who had actually been arrested, and rather than being sentenced to imprisonment, depending on when the year was, I was going to have him being drafted into the army and sent off to probably the Afrikaans to actually fight in the war, in sort of like for his freedom, basically. So he had two choices. He either went to prison, which prisons in the 1800s wasn't, the life expectancy there, especially with all the various diseases, wasn't very good. Or he had the choice of going to fight the African wars, sort of like the Zulu type things.
Yeah. Cool.
So that was the original concept. And then I also probably wanted him being injured in there, and that's why he couldn't go back into his chosen career as a criminal.
Okay. I was just looking at the investigator's skills, and I noticed that there's no forensic in there. So would it be the idea that that goes underneath the medicine role?
Yeah, I think it's more to do. I think the first ones were more to do with chemistry. I don't know whether or not there's a chemistry role in it. To be
Science
honest,
skill.
Science, yeah.
Yeah. So to be honest with you, I mean the skill sets. We were primarily discussing how the characters would react together. My only concern with my character was the social interaction with people of the higher class.
Okay.
Because I would be coming in as probably somebody of the lower class, and it's almost like middle class would probably speak to lower class, higher class would probably speak to middle class, but wouldn't really want to be.
So what you have to be careful as you create your character is that you don't want to make it in such a way that it's going to be excluded from the sessions.
Yeah,
so you'll have to almost like, it may be that, when he's come back from the being abroad or something, he's made his name in some kind of other criminal activity that is almost like more refined,
The other thing is, I didn't know how we were going to be introduced into the actual campaign, because of course that also sort of almost like dictates.
Well, I think
how the interaction would be.
Yeah, I think what it's going to be is that you're probably all have your own expertise, and you've been, say, hired together by someone, or you're together for some reason in a team. I just noticed that there's no science skill on the sheet. At all. There is an option, however, for other skills, and it sort of like has some options in there. And there was something that I noticed was blank. Oh, it might have been those, yeah. But whether or not the doctor is also like almost like a psychologist, and covering psychology and psychoanalysts, unless somebody else is going to pick that up. Because as you know, insanity is a very important part of the game, so...
Yeah, science is actually under other skills.
Is it?
Yeah, science starts off at
Oh, yeah, 1%, yeah. So, and then that would almost be like life sciences or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and then my other idea, depending on whether or not the lower life person would fit in, I'm finding it hard to bring it up the social ladder, if you see what I mean.
okay.
But my other idea was to have because of course, as you pointed out in your introduction, the camera had only just recently come into play in the Victorian era, and with that there were so many newspapers, magazines, etc., sort of like springing up, especially in the London area.
Yeah.
That my other idea was to play more of a freelance journalist, specialising in the photography side of it, who was determined to make his fame and fortune by being, sort of like the best.
Brilliant.
Best photographer.
So you're going to have to sort of like decide which one you're going to, and also perhaps why they might be somewhat interested in the occult or something like that. So they
that's the other thing, because I didn't know whether or not we were bringing that aspect of the game into character generation, whether or not we had already had previous experience.
Well, I would say that's not my decision. I think that's up to you as you create your characters. So if you would like it that they've got some occult, it could be that Mr. Pickles is private investigator. Has sort of like encountered some of these before and therefore might be having some occult skill, or it might be that you're very skeptical about everything and you don't. It might be the first time we have a session, might actually be the first time that you actually engage with the almost like, maybe, I'm not telling you why, the occult. So
my third idea for a character was to actually have one that had actually had experience with the occult, and maybe have it linked to one of the other characters by by being a part of the family.
Okay.
Although he wasn't all there. So for example, you could have it that Mr. Pickles' character, who was originally from America, had actually come across because his brother was in one of the asylums, and he had actually come across to get him out of there. But the brother was sort of like semi-deranged because of his experience with people considered him semi-deranged because of his experience with the Cthulhu mythos.
Right, so several things. I think you've got loads of character ideas, and I think what you need to do is decide which personality you want to play, and then then we can get down and start to make something. So we start looking at attributes and skills, etc. So I am actually going to use the version of the rules that you actually roll and then assign. Okay, so rather than rolling the first one and saying that's my strength, what we're going to do is that we're going to roll a number of 3d6s multiplied by 5, and then that will go on various sort of like attributes. So for example, strength, constitution, dexterity, appearance, and there's another one, and power. And then we're going to roll 2d6s plus 6 and multiplied by the 5 to get size, education, and I think intelligence. Okay, and so they will sort of like come together. So rather, what I don't want to do is to do it randomly and then suddenly find that you can't have your character because of where they are. I have to say at this point that I do not know the system inside out. I'm not too sure how it plays or anything like that. So by all means, if you know something that I don't, then by all means say so.
I mean, I ran a couple of character generations during the week before this session, just to see how it played out, but without knowing which rule set we were using.
Yeah. Okay then. So what your initial abilities will be between 15 and 90, because the lowest on a 3d6 is 3 multiplied by 5 would be 15%, and your highest to be 90, which is 18 times the 5. Okay, so you've got some rolls there. So I think what the best thing to do will be to roll strength, constitution, appearance, dexterity and power, and get those out and then start to assign those. Yeah.
Okay, so we're rolling 3 at how many we're rolling?
There's strength, constitution, dexterity, appearance and power. There should be 5 of them according to my book that I've got here.
Right, okay, and then the education and
size
is different, yeah.
And intelligence is different
Right.
as well. Yeah. So you've got size, education, and intelligence will be 2d6s plus 6 multiplied by 5, and then you can assign those where you want them as well.
Okay, shall I start?
Yeah. It's got,
Yeah. If I can help out here, there's a quick reference for character generation, 64 to 65.
Which?
Of the 1920s Investigator's Handbook, but it shows like everything that we'll be doing there in 2 pages.
What page is it, sorry?
64 and 65.
Cool.
Of the hard pages.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. So we're going to start off with rolling the attributes then. Determine characteristics. And then we can get those down, and then we can start talking about age and seeing how old you are. So,
yes.
By all means, off you go. Start rolling. Are you going to, I see you're just going to multiply it by 5.
Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Is there another way to do it easier than?
Couldn't you just do /roll 3d6 times 5?
That's what.
Oh, wait, does that work?
I don't know.
That's what 7, 8 times 5. Yeah, can you see that roll?
Cool. Yeah.
So if you just use the asterisk to mean multiply, I think because that's not 3 times 5. It's added all those together to get 8 and then multiplied it by 5.
Right.
Nice.
Is that the way we're doing it then? Yeah.
It's up to you.
May as well keep with your tradition.
Yeah, I think it's easier. Then you just get you don't need to do any calculations for mathematics.
Right. Yeah. Hang on. Let me cut and paste it then, because otherwise it's going to have to be typed in every time.
Yeah. I should do the same.
That's cool. Actually, you don't need to cut and paste it, because if you look at the dice roll, it comes up on the last 10 rolls. And so you can just click the re-roll button there.
All right. So 60, 30, 75. How many is that? 3.
Yeah, you need 5 altogether, I think.
50.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And 50.
Cool, you're sort of average Joe.
And then 2.
The next ones are 2d6s plus 6 multiplied by 5. So you'll have to do roll. I would roll 2d6, add 5, and then I don't think you can. You use brackets on this?
Don't know where, because it used BODRAM, won't it?
BODRAM.
Yeah, isn't it for
BODMAS.
work? BODMAS.
Yeah. Let's just see 5. Let's see what it does. Yeah, there you go. If you just put the 2 plus 6 plus 5, or is it plus 5 or plus 6? Plus 6. So don't put plus 5 like I've done. Do plus, because that's 10, isn't it, in the brackets, and multiply by 5. Yeah. And then again, that'd be. Yeah, that's right, isn't it? 12 times 5 is 60. Yeah. Cool.
Ooh, nice. Nice.
Nice.
You just know that goes on education so that you get loads of skills. Was it 3?
Yeah,
Yeah.
3. Yeah. Cool. 60, 60, and 90. Excellent. Are you ready, Mr. Pickles, for your...
I think so. I'm ready to fail. All right. Doing my 3d6s. I'm going to write these down while I'm doing it. And 2. And big money. Nope.
Oh,
I'm not going to say that again. Hard times for Mr. Pickles.
It is. Oh, look at that. 1's coming up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5 of them, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
So
Now it's time to... Let's see if I'm doing this right. Times 5.
950. Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. Getting some success right now.
Yeah. Now.
Haha.
Oh, yes.
You guys thought I was gonna die, but I am.
No, that's cool. Okay, so you can now assign those to your appropriate things, and then what we need to do then is decide on your ages, because when you decide on your age, there's various things that come about. You know.
So what are the attributes linked? Are attributes linked to something? Did we get a? Do they add bonuses to your certain skills? For example, if I had, I don't know, points in appearance, does it act like?
Okay, so I know that sanity comes equal to your power. Magic points are 1/5 of your power. Luck is separate. Hit points is equal to your size and constitution, divided by 10. Movement is done with your dexterity and your strength and size, etc. And if you look on, I think there's a page that actually gives you what... if you look on page 46, it gives you each one of the characteristics and what you would be. So if you look at strength, if you're 99, you're a world-class Olympic weightlifter, you know, and things like that. So that should give you a good indication what happens. Let me just... So when we roll skills, does anybody know at the top of the head? I wasn't aware that it relies on an ability.
I think that's what I didn't know. I mean, I know that when you look at getting your skills,
Yeah,
it sort of goes like, so for example, if you're an animal trainer, your number of occupation skills, you would get your education times 2.
yeah. So
Your appearance or power.
Yeah. So whereabouts are you? So each of the skills, does each of the skills have something designated to them?
Yeah,
It's each of the occupations has a certain amount of points you get based on selected characteristics.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think the actual skills don't have anything attached to them, don't they?
They just have a basic starting score for what the average person should know. But your intelligence also factors in later. You get personal skill points based on your intelligence.
Yeah, that sounds good. So does that answer your question, Chugs?
Right, yeah. So it doesn't really. matter what I say. For example, I was going to make up a criminal. It doesn't matter if I only have 30 in dexterity. It's as long as if my skill in lock picking is high.
Yeah, and the difference would be, remember, there's also... okay, then. So say, for example, you want to do locksmithing, then you would roll that roll. If you said, I want to jump up onto this wall, I might ask you to roll a dex roll. And
right,
so
yeah.
if you look at your characteristics, each one of them has a roll on them. And then what you should get is the 3 levels of difficulty on the value as it comes out. And then it'll say you succeeded in a hard role, a hard activity. The other thing is you can then, if you play Call of Cthulhu on Fantasy Grounds, because you can use your luck to change your rolls. So you can sort of like make it better. So on Fantasy Grounds, it actually says something like plus 77 luck if you want to achieve this. So I saw that in action as well.
Okay. Right, that's fine then. Okay, so
are we assigned then?
No, I was just getting information. So the first 5 go to strength, constitution, dex, appearance, and power.
Yeah. If you look on page 64, it says it up at the top.
And the only thing that power's doing is for...
Its power is for sanity points, and 1/5 of the power is your magic points, and that's about it. But remember, I could use it for any other situation.
Which page did you say where it's sort of
64. 64 has a double spread of all the...
Yeah, which one was it that where it says about if you have this level skill?
46.
Okay, yeah, because right, so power's just sort of like your mind, your willpower, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
So I almost think, because one thing I noticed when I was looking at the system, there's not actually a memory roll, that I could find, and then I was just looking then, because it's all about, like in Shadowrun has, you can roll a memory to see what was happening. But then I didn't know whether or not I would use power or intelligence, to see whether or not you remembered something, because there's no exact skill for it.
I would guess intelligence, but I mean, it seems like it could be in different situations. You could use different...
You can use different things in different... and I think that's one of the joys of the system, that you can sort of like mix and match where you put things.
Right, so I've got 15.
Am I going to be a big boy? I think I'm going to be very large.
Rather rotund.
Well, if I put my 75 for size, the closest relative one is an 80, which is very tall, strongly built, or obese.
So the last ones are for size, education.
Size, intelligence, and education, yeah. Those are the 2d6s plus 6 multiplied by 5.
Nice.
Okay, so while you're doing that, the next thing you need to think about is how old you're going to be. Okay, so, and you can see on page 64, depending on your age, depends what happens. So, for example, if you're in your 50s, you deduct 10 points from your strength, constitution, and dexterity, split across 1, 2, or 3, and reduce your appearance by 10. But you make 3 improvement checks for education. And an improvement check for education is that you roll a 1d100, And if it's greater than your present education, then you add 1d10 to it. So the older that you are, the more opportunity you have to have a better education. Whether or not, and that doesn't necessarily mean learning from the streets, learning from university. It could be that you've learned things from the streets, because that's going to be linked to your skills, depending which way you go.
Gotcha. I'm thinking I might be like 29, maybe 31, which means I only have one improvement.
Sorry, what age?
Like 29 or 31 or so. Maybe I'll just average it out and go 30.
So 20 to 30, you just make an improvement check for your education, but you have no dice rolls or anything like that to deduct anything from.
Okay. I think I might have my characteristics.
Okay, so what's your education?
My education, I've got my 2d6s are all settled. My education is a 75, intelligence is the 80, and my size is a 65 because I don't want to be a brick tower.
Yeah. Okay then. So in which case you need to roll 1d100, don't you? And then you need to get greater than your intelligence to make your education improvement check.
All right, let me just type these into my character sheet so it's not just on my pen and pad, so it's a little bit more official. 75 and 65.
How are you doing, Chugs?
I think I've got my stats done.
Okay then. So what age are you going to be?
Well, I'm going to make the journalist character. I've decided. So I probably want to be.
That's like wasn't Studley an ex-journalist?
Yes.
Yes. So
what did I have to hire then again?
Say again.
For my D100 roll?
1d100 you need to get is greater than your present education. So if your education is 75, you need to get above 75. So 70, 60. Yes, nice, Aaron. So 1d10 now.
I feel good about that. It offsets my 25.
Yeah, so you'll get 4 more points to your education.
What? I'm so educated. That means I am. Hold on.
Yeah, you can zip back to that other page.
I am one point away from a master's degree. Yeah.
Excellent. Nice.
If I was at an 80.
That's exactly like me. 1 point away from a master's.
That's exciting.
Oh, yes. That's a shame. If you'd been 90, you could have been a professor. That would have been really cool.
That's too much honor for my character.
So, Chugs, what age are you going for?
Early 20s.
Okay, so you just need to make an improvement check for your education. So what's your education?
60.
60. So roll 1d100 and you need to get above 60.
Can I roll the education button?
No, I think that's your skill check.
Right.
This isn't an education check. This is an education improvement check. You only ever do it at character generation, as much as I can see. 15. So that's below your education. So sad to say you don't get any increase. So it's kept how it is. So you should have all your characteristics now, and you should have your age in. So let's just work out the derived attributes. So your sanity points, one of my best things in the game, is your power characteristic. I love the buttons underneath Insanity. That says temp.
Doesn't it start off at 99 sanity or?
Well, I'm just looking on page 64 on number 2 derived attributes, and it says sanity points equals the power characteristic.
Right. I just can't alter. I can put 50 in, but out of 99.
Oh, yeah, that you put in your starting, and that's you could reach a maximum of 99.
99, yeah.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, you put it in the start, and then you have your current.
And then you have your current.
Okay.
And then I like it the way it says temporary insane. And then I presume it says indefinitely insane for the next one. Okay, so, and you've got your magic points underneath that, which is 1/5 of your power.
So mine says 9 out of 10.
Yeah, because 10's the maximum you can possibly get.
Right.
Okay, I think I got my characteristics all set.
Okay.
So what was power? Sorry,
Power is power you should have.
magic points. Sorry.
Magic points is 1/5 of your power.
Right.
There's a half and fifth value chart on page 59.
Yeah.
Super nice if you have a hard time, like me. Ooh, there's experience packages. That's way too far ahead.
Yeah, there is the option to do that. I think it's if you want to make something up that's almost like set. You know, so things like being a doctor or something. It says war experience, doesn't it? Or medical. So, say, for example, we wanted to make up a medical practitioner for Longshank CPG. I think we would just use that, you know, and sort of like roll it from there rather than making decisions. Because otherwise it could be a little bit long. Okay, are we all up to that? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so the next thing we need to do is work out your luck. And for that, you need to roll 3d6s and multiply by 5 and pop it in your luck. 65 for Chugawugga.
I'm betting on my bad luck. That's why tragedy's been in my background. Yep.
Yeah. And 40 for Aaron Weber. Is it Aaron or Aaron?
How would I pronounce it? Aaron.
Aaron.
I think
okay.
the second one then, yeah.
Okay, so cool. So your hit points is your size plus your constitution, then divided by 10, but we're rounding down. So size plus your constitution divided by 10 and round down.
Size, constitution. Is there a fight going on in the streets out there?
I think there is. There's definitely some kind of aggro going on.
Wait. Oh, it already did it for me.
Cool.
Rude.
Does it,
Wow,
does it automatically put your hit points in then?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Excellent. Okay then, so movement rate, has it automatically populated your movement rate? Or do you need to enter it?
Where does it come into?
Right, it says if both dexterity and strength are less than size, your movement is 7.
Oh, yeah. Well, strength and dexterity are less than...
Your size, your movement is 7.
Right.
If either your strength or dexterity is equal or greater to the size, or if all are equal, your movement is 8.
Yeah, in which case it's put it correct.
Has it put it in? Brilliant.
Yeah, because my size is 60, but my dexterity is 60. So that would
Yeah,
put it
that'll
up
be
to
8. Yeah, cool. Brilliant. So we should have all that going up and down. What do you have your damage bonus there?
It just says none for me, but then it says build nothing.
Yeah, well, if you add your strength and size together, if it's between 85 and 125, then yes, they'll both be 0.
Mine's correct then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Woo.
Fantastic. So now we get on to you can then write down your age and your sex, etc. Your gender, sorry, should I say. And the next bit is the nice part, because this is occupation. Okay, so you're going to choose your occupation and then note the occupation and credit rating, and then calculate your occupation skill points using the characteristics specified in your occupation. And then you can allot these points across the occupation skills. Not forgetting to put points into credit rating. points to the base chances written next to each skill. Yep. Now, just to let you know, in this book, I have credit ratings for the 1880s, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So how does skills work again? Sorry.
Okay, then. So if we use the investigator book, and then we can just change almost like the title of the occupation if we decide it doesn't fit in. So if we look at let's look on one, shall we? And then we're all looking at the same thing. Let's look on page. Let's look on page 79. There's an entertainer.
Okay.
Okay, so your occupation skills would be education times 2 plus your appearance times 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your credit rating is between 9 and 70, and I think, unless I'm mistaken, that's treasured possessions. I like that part of it. Credit rating. Your investigator's credit rating skill begins at 0. The range of starting levels for each profession can be broad, and the level chosen would reflect the investigator's rank. For example, criminal could be used as a profession for a poor lone pickpocket, rating 9. For a wealthy gang boss, it might be 90. Any number of skills can be invested in credit rating without the limits for the profession. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. I was more going down the route of, so when it says skills, so say for example, I've worked out my occupation skill points.
Yeah.
Say I have 120 points to spend.
Yeah.
Under skills, where it lists skills, am I limited to those skills, or can I pick other skills as well?
No, I think it's almost like your class then.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I think it sort of like thinks about it a bit like Mithras does, is the sense that you've grown up with that occupation, so those are the skills that you would actually
that's
have.
fine. Yeah.
We get our personal skills later, I believe, where you get a few points to spend on things that you might not otherwise have.
Yeah, number 5, and that's it.
Yeah. So on page 87, would private investigator, all those skills be pretty well accurate of what I would still have?
Yeah.
As an inquiry agent, I mean?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fine. I don't
probably can't take computer use, but
no,
I'll live with that.
I was just checking what. Let's see if there is any difference for the occupation of the private inquirer.
It looks like the biggest one I see is that instead of getting both fast talk and persuade, I make the choice between charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade.
Yeah. And in this book, you can there's no choice that you need. It's interesting because I think credit rating wasn't in 3rd edition, where the gaslight is. I think it was more social class at that point.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, because it sort of like says social class lower to middle. So I'll be slightly different.
I would probably be lower class with this inquiry agent, because I think middle class would indicate that I'm with like an agency and more successful.
Yeah, that's cool. I think because there's a credit rating, isn't there? Let me find my up-to-date credit rating in this book. It might not be called credit rating.
I'm going to go ahead and calculate my skill points then for occupation.
Yeah, go for it.
I have 258 occupational skill points.
Just out of interest, there are some slight changes. Can you see it says drive auto? Does it say drive automobile at 20%? Okay, that is changed to drive carriage, like a hansom cab. So
That makes sense.
Yeah, and electronic repair and operate heavy machinery disappears. And the only flying vehicles available at the time were lighter than aircraft, such as hot air balloons. So pilot aircraft becomes pilot balloon.
It's gonna be my specialty.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the balloon guy. I solve crimes from the air.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
So what about the journalist? Because in the core rule book, there's a Lovecraftian journalist.
Yeah. I'm happy for.
But there's also a reporter.
Yeah, and I think that's that would be up to you. Which one would you like to go for?
Oh no, sorry. There's an investigative journalist.
Yeah.
Oh, that's Studley, isn't it?
Yeah. He was an investigative journal, wasn't he? Journalist. Before he became a Shadowrunner.
What interpersonal skills are you going to be going for with your news media character?
I'm just looking at the. So in the Gaslight, it has things like accounting and dodge, and it only lists one sort of like interpersonnel skill of fast talk.
Mm.
Whereas in the core rule book, it says you can choose between charm, fast talk, intimidate, or persuade.
Yeah, I think that's the same for the private investigator, is it? You choose one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured we were going with the choice method here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of the stem of it, because I don't know if I want to do persuade or intimidate as my primary method of subjugation, or because if you took persuade, I'd rather go with a gruff character that's a little bit more.
I would have thought the way that my character was, he would go for one of two ways. He would try to charm his way in, or he'd try to persuade his way in. I can't see him. I mean, maybe fast talk.
Yeah, I mean,
To be honest with you,
that makes sense.
What's the difference between persuade and fast talk? Is it?
Well, I think it would be down to the situation, and if you are trying to convince somebody, I think it's the difference between convincing and making them do something. So if I was going to fast talk my way in to something, I'm using a fast talk skill to say I am so-and-so, and I'm coming in. If it was a persuade skill, you're almost like trying to get them to do something rather than trying to get in. So in that same situation, I would say persuade is something like you can either fast talk your way in, i.e. pretending to be somebody else, a con, or you can persuade yourself in, i.e. you're being yourself and you're just trying to use your natural charm.
I think I would probably go for more of a fast talk then, because as a journalist, when I get there, I would have to sort of like get in there and sort of like get the information that I needed, sort of like straight away.
Yeah, I think there's a list of what all the skills do. Persuade. Use your persuade to convince a target about a particular idea, concept, belief, argument, debate, or discussion. Okay, so while fast talk is specifically limited verbal trickery, deception, and misdirection, such as bamboozling a bouncer to let you inside a club, getting someone to sign a form they have read, make the policeman look the other way, etc.
Yeah, so I would be going for fast talk then.
Yeah. So which one would you go for, Mr. Pickles, with Aaron?
I'm I'm stuck right now. I'm reading through Intimidate because I might go Intimidate, but I don't know if I want to be a jerk. I don't know if I can be that much of a jerk.
I'm sure you can be, Mr. Pickers.
Thank you. I guess I will be Intimidate then.
I think it'd be interesting. I can see you sort of like growing up on dealing with gangs and things like that, you know, but really throwing your weight around rather than.
I suppose it also depends on where you come from, and wasn't 1800s America a bit rougher than 1800s Britain?
I wasn't around for either. No.
I think
I'm not sure.
I was asking in Wills.
All right. I'm not too sure. I know what England is like, but not necessarily America. I think the thing that I really like about intimidation, it says physical force, which is fine, but I really like the second one, psychological manipulation. You know, I think that's a wonderful 2 words. So you're actually not doing something physical. You're actually manipulating their thoughts. You know, backing up with
I'll
a
take
weapon
that.
or some powerful threat or incentive may reduce the difficult level. In pushing the intimidation one possible consequence of failure is carrying out one threat. Yeah. So you can, in certain situations, roll the dice again. It's called pushing it, as far as I can remember. But they usually have a consequence. It's not just I want to do this again. So within your skills, it'll say a pushing and a failed. So if you say, for example, you threatened physical violence, failed your first one, so you pushed it and failed it again, then you would have to actually carry out your physical violence that you were going to do. You know?
Do we need to put points into own language?
What does it say? That is, if you look on page 109, it says that is your education in percentage.
So my education's 60. So would my points go down by 60?
Your education, your own language would be 60%. It's just your education.
Does it use skill points?
No, you get that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your own language is. I'm just checking. Yeah, the tongue chosen by the player for the own language automatically starts as equal to the investigator's education characteristic. Thereafter, the investigator understands, speaks, reads, and writes at that percentage or higher if you put more skills into it. And then you also have, I think you have language other, do you, as well? You can have another language if you think, and that starts at 0-1. And that would go down as one of the other skills.
Question.
Yeah.
As a private investigator, it says I have and any one other skill as personal or era specialty. They suggest computer use, locksmith, fighting firearms. Could I perhaps take science, cryptography, secret codes and languages?
Yeah, when was that started?
That's a very good question. That book's not really helping. It has a bunch of information on 1920s stuff, but
Well, it's interesting that BBC web site says that their code and cipher breaking have been around in operation for centuries.
ooh. I figured it might be like riddles or kind of experience with solving demon puzzle boxes that aren't actually demonic. They're just.
I think, yeah, like Chinese boxes and things like that. I think that would be a good role to have.
Cool. And then I'm still going to take up fighting, but I think that should be as a personal skill rather than as part of my inquiry agent.
Yeah. So.
Cool.
Are you
Just
right?
wanted to confirm that.
Are you all right, Chucks? Are making headway?
Yeah, I'm just reading up skills and how they would sort of like maybe fit in.
So if you're ready, Mr. Pickles, you calculate your personal interest points by multiplying intelligence by 2.
Intelligence by 2. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm going to note, 160 personal points. That's cute.
And what do they do?
I believe you can put them in anything.
Yeah, allot these power to any skill to round out the investigator, not forgetting fighting and firearm skills if appropriate. The number for unarmed combat is your investigation fighting brawl skill, which will be separated out. It starts off at 25.
Ooh. I should probably have good punching skills.
And if you look on the gaslight one, if you look on page 23 and 25, it gives a whole load of handheld weapons, etc.
Ooh.
So like a Derringer and a 30 lever action rifle. Is it Lee Enfield? I thought that was like a Winchester one. Nobody's having a machine gun, by the way, so don't even think.
Enfield's a bolt action, right?
Yeah, we're having no Gatling guns.
I built my character around having a Gatling gun. No.
So when it gives the basic ability roll,
Yeah,
so say for accounting is 5%.
that's what it starts at. So you would add your skill points onto that 5. You don't need to pay for that 5.
Right.
Is there a maximum that we can start with in a given skill?
I don't think so. It's not mentioning anything that I've read. Let me just check.
Ooh. Helpful is on page 96 of the Investigator's 7th edition handbook. It says what kind of skill level you'd be at relative.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
At what level, sorry? What?
Like if you were at 73%, what does that mean for you with that skill?
What page number?
96.
A skill level of 50% higher is high enough to let the character eke out a living from it, which is interesting.
Nice. See, so I've...
Should have gone for zookeeper.
That would have been cool. Let's make Longshanks. Let's make Longshanks a zookeeper.
We discussed being a zookeeper.
I think that
Still
was
a great
cool.
idea.
This is really hard, this.
258 skill points divided by 6 skills is 43 skill points. That's how I'm handling the 6
Yeah.
skills I won.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it, is deciding what you want and then just divide it out equally among there, because some of them will naturally be higher. For example, listening or library use, those would naturally be higher. But the good thing is, because they've already got a 20%, then that's, you can still do it.
Cool. In that case, I'm done with occupation points.
Excellent.
Making progress.
I'm confused now because there's also an occupation of photographer, and one of them's a photojournalist.
Yeah, okay. So I think that the difference between that, how I would see it, is that if you were an investigative journalist, you're the sort of person that goes around taking notes and finding things out. Well, the photographer might be with an investigative journalist, or might be going out taking his own pictures to prove things. So, say, for example, it was late in the 1880s, and Jack the Ripper was about then. A normal journalist would be taking notes. The photojournalist would be taking pictures, and you're lucky because the Kodak camera is actually available.
I think photojournalist is.
FYI, I put no points into my inquiry agent's photography skill. I don't even know how to mess with powder. Oh, I should put points in credit rating, huh?
Oh, that's what I was looking at, I'm sure.
Because it said 9 to 30 for private investigator in 1920s and lower to middle for gaslight.
Okay then, so your credit rating, the starting percentage is derived from your starting income, 5% per £100 income, unless the investigator is upper class, in which case it starts at 65. That's what it says in the Gaslight book. I'm not too sure where income comes from.
Yeah, me either.
I think what we'll say is that once you've got your credit rating, we'll say every 5% of that is £100 income.
Okay. It does start at 0%, so I'm going to need to put some credit points in.
Yeah.
And it says 9 to 30 on the 1920s version. Is that mean that's like a limit? I can't go above 30?
Yeah, I think so. That's what it's basically saying. So you can't get super rich. It'll be down to your occupation, how good you are.
That's fair.
On page 52 in the investigators, it start talking about personal descriptions, ideologies and beliefs, and significant people, meaningful locations, treasured possessions and traits. It says the first one here, there says sort of like personal description, and it says choose rather than roll. So you can choose one of those. So if you want to be baby-faced or rosy or stuffy, then that's absolutely fine. No options.
Fantastic.
And then it's whether or not, on page 53, whether or not you want to actually roll on those tables or pick one.
See. Oh, that is nice. I'll have to look into that to see what tragedy I have.
Yeah, and I quite like some of the idea of it, and whether or not. But for example, on the traits, it sort of like says generous, good with animals, dreamer, hedonist. I think it's hedonist, which is life and soul of the party, etc. Or gambler and risk taker, good cook, ladies' man, loyal. Which I think almost like helps with the personality of the character. And like I said, I'm quite happy for you to either roll those or actually decide which one you would like. Have you decided where you're going, Chugs?
No, not yet. It's a bit confusing.
What do you find confusing about it?
No, it's just choosing whether or not to be a journalist or a...
Okay, so if you go back to your initial character concept, which one would it fit in better with?
Well, I mean, he's there selling pictures to the papers.
Okay, a bit like Peter Parker. But in the 1880s.
I mean, he would need to...
So if he's selling pictures to the papers, then there's a whole load of papers actually out and about. There's near Fleet Street. There's papers like the Daily News, Daily Telegraph, Morning Advertiser, the Standard, Daily Chronicle, Punch, Echo, Citizen, and of course the the Times newspaper is there as well.
So, I mean, I could either go for, I wouldn't say he was a reporter.
Okay.
But, I mean, he could be an investigative journalist, like Studley.
Yeah.
He could be a photographer. He could be a photojournalist.
Is this going with your... Have you moved away from the ones that you mentioned at the beginning? Like the criminal and everything like that had been abroad and then come back?
Yeah, because I can't see that one working with the campaign. I think there would be a lot of downtime with him when he wouldn't be actually doing anything.
Yeah, and I think if you... I don't think I, as a GM, I would let that... Sorry, as a keeper, I would let that happen. And you would have to sort of like... Or we would have to decide something like, you know, he almost like dressed smartly, but he doesn't carry it off, you know, as he walks around. So he's almost like dressed to be of a higher social status, but actually doesn't carry it off. But, you know, so I think there's ways round characters. Yeah. I'm just going to have a look at sheets because I've just got a blank one open at the moment.
I'm putting in my personal skill points. I sent you a copy of what they are, and I'm unticking all the things because I don't have skill points in there.
Did that come into...
On Discord, I sent
Yeah.
it to you. I didn't want to interrupt you guys.
Yeah,
but...
no, that's cool. Yeah, fantastic. I like the way he's got brawl.
I'm an angry soul.
Yeah.
Due to this tragedy we're going to learn about.
I can imagine that, you know, because that's a lot more sort of like based on him as a private investigator. He might have to punch somebody now and again to either protect himself or maybe intimidate.
You know how America is.
Yeah.
I'm not here to be slowed down by anybody in my investigations.
No, not at all.
Just here to break skulls. Gotta make sure I don't turn my voice into Batman.
Yeah, I'm Batman. Yeah.
I'm Aaron Weber. Time to pay.
So are you ready to go for your personal description? Your backstory? Mr. Pickles, is that where you're up to?
I am putting in my last skill right now, and then I will be right on that track. Ooh, I can jump and not break my leg.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a good listener. Excellent. Okay. If that's the next step, then that is the step that I am on.
Yeah, well, I think it says about on the chart. I think it says backstory comes next.
Because we already did the damage bonus, I think.
Yeah, so it says think about your character and write a few pithy entries for 3 to 6 for the 3 to 6 personal description, etc. It's not essential to have an entry for every category, but the more you're able to define, the more your investigator comes to life. So that's the important aspect there. So are you on page 52 at the moment? 52 and 53?
I actually went back to 51 because it seemed to start a little bit at the end of page 51.
Yeah. Because then on page 52 is the bit about personal description, and it's got here are some possibilities, and then there's a box for it on your character sheet.
Well, my appearance is a 25, which isn't exactly great.
No.
And I think a bit of it is my expression, maybe a few years of alcohol abuse.
Yeah. So
alcohol is still legal at this point.
Yeah.
Because prohibition hasn't hit yet.
Yeah, 1920s in America, wasn't it? I forget the.
What are popular drinks at this time? Is it like wine and brandy, or?
That's an interesting thing, because in there is transportation. or you can have toasted crumpets, ginger beer, pint of it.
Ooh.
I'm just looking at the in the Gaslight. It's on page 29. It says some sample prices. You can go on a hot air balloon for £300.
That sounds a bit expensive. Seems slow, to be honest. A tin of biscuits.
Yummy. I think also on page, where is it? I'm sure I was reading and it was giving me religion, travel, the law, criminals. I can't find it. I'm sure I was reading somewhere about food. Okay, Chugs, are you done?
Yeah. I've taken it from the Gaslight thing because the other one was too confusing.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. No worries at all. So the next bit is personal description. So you can choose.
I haven't done personal interest points yet.
Okay then.
What's that? Intelligence times 2. Oh Christ, 180 points to put in.
Yeah.
How many skills is that?
I'm gonna go with rugged and weary. That's my
Cool.
appearance.
Yeah, I think
I bear the burden on my shoulders and in my eyes.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And what would you like to do for ideology and beliefs? Would you like to roll a 1d10 or pick? It's completely up to you.
Well, this brings us back to the question Chugs and I were having of who's going to be the believer and who's going to be the skeptic in our duo.
Oh,
But then
interesting.
we have a third person coming in, so it brings room for us to be a triangle of beliefs.
Yeah, very much so. So you could have somebody whose personal beliefs are to do with the occult, you know, or you could have people who believe in a higher power that you worship and pray to. That would be like the priests. Or mankind can do just fine without religion.
I want to have my character was married
Okay.
and is currently divorced
Cool.
because of the murder of his daughter.
Okay.
Seems appropriate. And that gives kind of a motive and a drive to keep doing his inquiry agent job, because perhaps one day he'll find justice for a named daughter.
Yeah.
I should probably get a name for my daughter.
Sybil.
I like that. Sybil. We're going to go with Sybil. It's
Sybil?
a beautiful name. My wife and I are not on good terms, and I think she remarried.
I thought you were talking. I thought you were talking in real life then. I was going to say, Mr. Pickles, we don't want to know about your domestic life at this.
We were arguing last night, and I'll just tell you all about it.
Yeah. I was just about to say, we are streaming this.
That'd be terrible.
So what are you? Which one do you think you're going to go for? Is it a belief in fate? I really like that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a belief that fate will eventually bring me to the murderer.
Yeah.
I'll type that down up here.
Yeah, because therefore your significant person, you can probably pick from there to fit into the character.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna go with kind of a vague, superstitious karma.
Yeah. Sounds
karmic.
Good.
Yeah. Significant people. Gonna pick my daughter.
Yeah.
She's my significant person who.
Yeah.
I wonder what happened. She died.
Then on page 54 gives your why the person is so significant to you.
I'm gonna go with number 8, feeling of regret, because I should have saved her.
I thought you were going to go for number 3.
Number 3, give your life meaning. Well, I mean, I want to make a character that's a little stable. If my daughter gave me meaning and she's dead, then I'm just going to be drinking the whole game.
I thought it would give you life meaning, i.e., you're carrying on to sort of like avenge that or find something out about it, and that's what your whole meaning of life. So it's almost like you're sort of like saying, because that happened in the past, now I want to help other people, and
Yeah,
but
I like that.
it's up to you.
That's excellent. I like that.
I also like number 4. That would come in as well. You wronged them, and therefore you're seeking reconciliation. In the sense that if it was your fault that your daughter died, then actually going out and about is actually, in your own way, you're trying to get reconciliation for it. You're almost like transferring it to your everyday job, to make it. I mean, there's loads in there that you could have.
That sounds like a twist at the end. Is I'm convinced that there's a killer, and then at the end we find out the killer was me.
Let me write that down.
I'm gonna believe, regardless of what you decide over there. I'm gonna believe that the killer is somebody, and I'm gonna catch them, and that Sybil gave me meaning because I'm going to find.
And that might be why you've come to London.
I wonder, maybe her grave is here or in London or something, and I'm kind of tied to the city, whether I like it or not.
So you might have married an English lady.
Yeah. What's her name? I need a name for my ex-wife.
There's some really. If you look on page 54 and 55, there's some lovely names there.
Agnes.
Agnes is a wonderful name.
My ex-wife, Dolores.
Van Cartier. So that's from Sister Act. Dolores.
Iris. Jeanette.
I love some of the names. I like Ethel.
Mabel. Mabel could be good.
Gretchen.
Mabel.
Yeah. How you doing, Chugs?
Yeah, what's next after these personal things?
Excellent. So you're coming to do your backstory next. So on page 52 is your personal description. So this is when you have to decide. You choose rather than rolling, and you can have more than one, like Mr. Pickles' character has. But it's starting to give your character depth now.
But you can roll for it, yeah?
Well, you can't roll for your personality, your first one, your personal description, because if you want to randomly pick it, then that's absolutely fine. But what I would do is go with your character idea and see which one fits it, because therefore if you start to say, well, he's like this or she's like that, so she will come across like that, and then you'll find that everything else will fall into place as we go along. What was your ideology? Yours is karma, isn't it, Mr. Pickles? Yeah.
Justice themed karma.
Yeah.
With bloody fist prints in it.
See, I was just thinking your meaningful location will probably be the grave of your daughter.
Yeah, I visit Sybil's grave rather often.
Number 7 says the grave of a significant person.
That's convenient right there.
Yeah.
Okay, there's grave. Is there anything more to add about that? Is there a specific good graveyard that you could think of in the London area that this might be at?
Well, I will work on it. Just to let you know, if you're watching Roll20, if I go onto this page,
I am. Oh, ooh.
I've put the boroughs of London out, so you can see how they all look together. And I think in the 1980s book, it says it gives a sort of explanation of each of those, and sort of says what they're like. But we can make up. Let's have a look. Victorian graveyard in London. Let's see what it comes up with. Highgate. Highgate is the best known of all London's cemeteries, in part because of the bust of Karl Marx, which will be there.
Do you think that would be an area that would... No, that's a weird question.
That would be appropriate.
Yeah, I guess appropriate is that's why I put that. Am I rich enough to have my daughter a grave there?
Or it could be that your wife's family is rich, so they might...
She always rubbed that in my face.
Yes, exactly. And then so they actually paid for the grave, etc. You know, are you and your wife still together?
I presume after our daughter died, Aaron sank into a little bit of a depression. You know, the grief, the bottle.
Yeah.
And that kind of had things fall apart. And
Cool.
Wife moved on, got divorced of him, and found some other richer guy. And so now Aaron's kind of getting his life back together and trying to get his reputation back, perhaps.
Yeah, I think that would be brilliant. That's a really nice, background, in the sense that it would be wonderful if you actually see her in the street with another guy.
Oh, well, her intimidate skill's higher than mine. So.
Yeah.
Let's
I'm
see.
wondering whether or not your treasured possession is something from your daughter.
I was looking at that, and I was also looking at traits, and I'm curious how you would think about this. My idea is that perhaps one of the turning points in my character coming out of that grief and downward spiral was perhaps stray cats at the graveyard or in the streets. I started feeding them little bits of food whenever I could.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a pet per se, but like maybe I have some stray cats that I know of in local areas that I feed. Really.
So are you good with animals then?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the trait. And then the item would be the cats in various parts that I regularly feed.
I think that sounds cool. How are you doing, Chugs? I've noticed that you're rolling. Are you going for the random roll?
Well, I was going to, but I don't think the random rolls will actually fit in.
Right, so what I would do is like what Mr. Pickle's done, is actually think about the character and then pick one out. What's your personal description going to be?
Not sure yet.
Okay. Do you want to tell me about your character?
I'm not sure yet.
Right, okay then. No worries.
Well, if I'm playing kind of a grim, determined character here, that might mean that it might be a better comparison between us if your character is more optimistic or more I don't know. I think my character might be more on the scientific end, as I believe everything has a truth to it, other than my one obscure belief that justice is an abstract thing that will occur everywhere. Yes. So if you played kind of more of a I don't know what the word for it is, less grim, might make a good dynamic. I don't know.
And it'd be interesting what Longshanks' character is as well, because that if he's playing a doctor psychologist sort of like idea, it's probably he might actually he could believe science is all there, or he could do number 2, mankind can do fine without religion, and he's almost like that staunch atheist.
He might end up being kind of the sterile scientific character, while I'm kind of sort of scientific, but more in a grim, miserable way. And then your character might be that opposite on that end, with Longshanks being kind of the middle ground, is what I'm saying.
Right.
That could be cool.
Cool.
So have you got an idea for your backstory then, Chugs? Did you go for photojournalist? Is that
I went for photography.
Okay.
From the Gaslight.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me about the character then.
He takes pictures.
Yeah, I'm thinking more about his personality, or rather than what he does.
I haven't decided on his personality yet. I've just.
Yeah, this is what Session Zero is all about. Sort of like, and trying to listen to each other's characters so we can blend them together, and start having a think about it.
What are your personal skills for your photographer? The ones that you use your intelligence points in?
History, climb, dodge, jump, and ride.
History.
Okay.
What drew your character into photography? Because I presume even though the Kodaks just came out, there was like the mixing of powders and whatnot, and like those.
I think it was. Didn't you have to open it and everybody had to stand very still for a long period of time because it's just like light paper, I think, photographic paper. Yeah.
What draws your character into photography and into history?
Money.
Money.
Okay then. So what do you take photographs of?
Anything that he can sell to the papers.
Right. Well, I see. When you said a photographer, I imagined in my head more of almost like taking pictures of people with a backdrop, and actually doing like portraits and things like that, rather than. So he's more like a journalistic photographer then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay then, and so it is his main drive therefore has to be money, won't it?
And fame.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, go on, Mr. Pickles.
So get into the story before anybody else does, taking pictures and selling it to the highest paper.
Yeah. Okay then. So that have you thought about the personal description? What does he actually look like? Is he slim? Is he muscular? Is he glamorous? Is he dull? Is he dirty? Is he elegant? How do you picture him?
And what's your appearance score too?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, that's the other thing, isn't it? Because is your personal description linked to your appearance? His appearance is 75.
Yeah, think of a distinct look that sums up your investigator's appearance. Whether your appearance and your personality match is another question. A person may look stuffy, but actually be quite personable and open. So it sort of like needs to fit into your appearance, but also it's not just looks. It can also be almost like personalities as well.
Well, I suppose he's handsome then, because his appearance is 75.
Yeah, okay.
What about your credit rating, though? What is your credit rating?
I didn't put anything into credit rating. I didn't know how that was working.
Yeah, well, it's like what we said. It's like a skill. So every point in credit rating, every 5%, is the same as £100 income. I think that's what I said.
Yeah, I could see if you had like a higher credit rating and being handsome in this time, you might look. Let's see, where was it? Yeah, stuffy.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, if you have very low credit rating, you might be more of the strapping quality.
Well, at the moment, I don't have anything in credit rating. I didn't know how it fitted in, because in some of them it says it gives actually a credit rating in
the investigators group book.
Yeah,
that's what we talked about it earlier on. Because there's no the credit rating in this book is the starting percentages is derived from the starting income, so 5% per 100 income. So if you actually I think are you using something from the Gaslight occupation?
Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
photographer.
Yeah. In the Gaslight.
Sorry, journalist.
Oh, you're going for journalist. Yeah. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so it says what you would do. You can go one. I think how Mr. Pickles has done it is put points in your credit rating. Is that correct?
Yeah, I took it as because mine was 9 to 30, and it starts at a 0%. So I figured their suggestion was for me to put in between 9 and 30 points. I opted for 30.
Yeah, sounds good. So if we look at the actual journalist in the 1920s book, it doesn't matter that it's not exactly the same. Yeah, so your credit rating is somewhere, you can either be between 9 and 30 for all of them. So I would put it at somewhere between 9 and 30. And then
I put it at 20.
Yeah, cool. So therefore your income's about £400.
Now that I use points from my personal interest because it wasn't in my
that's
my
fine. Yeah,
okay.
that's absolutely fine. So what's your character sort of like ideology and beliefs, Chugs? How does he view the world?
That there's money to be made, and the person who gets there first is going to make it.
Okay, so are you very materialistic? Are you sort of like the important thing for you is all about money, and at what cost? You know, are you almost like because I noticed later on there's words like a risk taker. You know, are you prepared to go? You know, if somebody's dangling off a bridge, are you prepared to dangle off the bridge and take the photograph of it? Do you have? It'd be really interesting. Does your character have any morals? You know, or are you just out there? Say, for example, there was a crying child because her mother's just been run over by a hansom cab. Would you have no worries taking the picture of the child and selling it as a crying child? Or would you say, no, that's something that shouldn't be sold?
No, he would have no worries about doing that.
Okay, then. So so basically what you're saying is that to him, the most important thing is the financial reward, isn't it? You know, and then that's it. So it's a bit like a lot of the
I think it's more proving that he's the best at what he does.
Oh, right. So that's so that's different, isn't it? Because if you're trying to prove yourself, I would be using characteristics such as being ambitious, you know, because you want to be the best photographer, and there's some sort of like conflict there. Because if you want to be the best, would you take photographs of everything, or do you consider something sort of like off limits? You know, and I think that's a really interesting sort of like view about, and it can also almost like have personal conflicts, you know, as you role play them out. Yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, where am I putting that?
No, I don't want you just to. I want you to develop your character. That's what I want you to do. Rather than you don't have to say what I'm saying. You develop your own character and then think which characteristics you want to implement.
Being greedy and whatnot almost sounds like you're part of my in-laws with this character.
Yes, exactly.
my brother-in-law is the only one who still talks to me.
He's not greedy. It's not necessarily about the money. It's about being the best, being first.
Yeah, so
being on the front cover.
Yeah, so that would be more to do. He's incredibly ambitious then. Yeah. Okay, so what about his almost like his ideology and beliefs? So you actually going for number 9. You know, money is power, and I'm going to get all that I can. For example, you might not be greedy, but I would say that you're probably enterprising or even ruthless. You know that because you would always go that extra bit to get that photographer. That perfect picture. So,
Yeah.
so what about a significant person in your character's life?
I don't think it would be. I don't think it would probably be parent or sibling, child.
Imaginary friend?
Yes.
Oh, I picked wrong with a dead daughter. I could have had an imaginary friend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would be cool.
No, I'm not going back on that.
I would have thought it would be more of somebody who was in the same profession as he was, somebody who he was trying to compete against.
Okay, then. So that's really interesting. So that would just come under, a non-player character in the game. So you can sort of like think about that person, give him a name, etc. Then I can feed it into the game at the appropriate time, which I think would make a wonderful role play opportunity. Especially, if you submitted a picture to the Times or something, and then it's not printed. If that makes sense, it's not sort of like around.
Arrival is a good one.
Yeah, and then you can sort of like move on to the other. It's are you seeking do you wish to prove yourself better than them?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. He wants to be the best photographer in London. He wants to be on the front of everything. If there's a photograph appearing, he wants his name underneath as a caption.
Yeah, I'm just looking up and taking photographs.
It's probably one of these things that you have to stand there for 4 hours as.
Yeah, and I think that's cool.
I like that example for the lady getting run over by the carriage and her child crying. Stand still over there.
Yeah.
4 hours.
Exactly.
Keep crying.
Cool.
Yeah.
So brilliant. So you will be able to do some background about that, Chubb. So you know what sort of like camera is around at that time. So you're doing things like that. It also gives a wonderful insight or purpose behind some of the sessions, because you're probably trying to find the most unusual, the most different story, so you actually get further recognition. So you're always trying to go and one step further, which is cool. So in which case, all you need to do now is think about your meaningful location and treasured items. And then I think I'm wondering whether or not your traits, which is on page 56, number 10 actually says ambitious.
I mean, his treasured possession would be his camera, especially seeing that, they had just been introduced.
Yeah. Okay. So that'll be fine. You decide what sort of like cameras were around at that time, and then that would be your treasured possession. And then do you have a meaningful location? And that might just be London. It can just be London. You might have grown up in the place, and that's why it has meaning for you. And it might be that you don't want to move anywhere else because this is the important place for you. Or it could be somewhere that you've tried to get away from. And you're going.
It could be just even somewhere where he had the first picture that he took that got on the newspaper.
Yeah, so that could be it. And then you just where was it? What was it? You know, what was it that the newspaper actually liked about it that got you published? You know, what was it about it?
Excellent.
Okay, so I think now have we finished all the tiki things? I'm just looking
Key
at
backstory connection. Is this something that we? It's right after traits on page 56.
page 56.
It says, consider your investigator's backstory and pick the one entry that you feel is most important to them. This connection can aid your investigator in regaining sanity points.
Cool.
Um,
Oh, I see what it's saying. So it might be that, say, for example, the treasured item and the camera. Losing one key connection during play requires a sanity roll. And the two numbers, the first one is what you need to get for success, isn't it? And then the second one is how many sanity points you lose if you fail. I think that's it. Or is it the other way around?
for the 1/1d6 sanity loss,
Yeah.
I believe that's you lose one sanity point if you succeed at your sanity roll, and you lose d6 if you fail.
Cool, yeah. So it might be that the connection, say, with Chug's character is his camera.
I wouldn't have thought it would be, because he would be always striving to have the best camera and therefore to take the best pictures. So he wouldn't become attached to just that one.
Okay. So it might be something totally different and totally that is sort of like buried deep in your character background, something that he might have encountered or seen, and he sort of like, you know, wishes to forget about it.
Could it be like your reputation as a photographer? Like you might already have this kind of solidly built foundation of people know your name, at least within the newspapering. Perhaps.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to have mine be my cats? More so than my daughter, because my daughter's my drive forward, but I don't know how I would regain sanity from that. I would presume that the cats would be more accurate for.
Yeah, and those are the ones that live near your accommodation, etc., that are always around and about. You know, that you've grown to have that personal attachment with. You know, in that sense. Now, the other thing it says to do is to talk about gear and equipment. And what I don't want to do, you know, you look at the Gaslight book, decide what you actually want to buy. You know, I'm quite happy for you to buy things from that. No Gatling guns, please, or anything like that. You know, and then that's it. And we've got Aaron's character picture, haven't we? You're looking very, very, very posh there.
Yeah, I might have to change that picture a little bit. Something a little bit more depressive.
Yeah, and I think I sent you both that link that I found, wasn't it? That was links to portraits of men in Victorian times. Oh.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah. I'm just looking.
For equipment, I guess all I'd really want is some like brass knuckles, if those are made. And then from there, it would just be like stuff that's more flavor than anything. Just a bottle of some liquid, some scraps of food, or wrapped in butcher paper to give to cats.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I just found a picture that I'm going to share with you. Where is it going? Yeah.
Ooh, ladies dress fashionable, 5 guineas.
Now I've put a handout in on the game to do with about Victorian currency, so it's got all the pictures in. And then, can you all see that?
Yes.
And then down at the bottom, it gives all the different types of coins and the conversion. So things like 12 pennies make a shilling, 20 shillings in a pound, half pennies, groats, etc. Yeah, because the crown's quite big, isn't it? But I was just looking at the penny. The penny's massive.
It's only copper or bronze, though.
It is, yeah, that is true.
Making it massive doesn't make it necessarily more than silver,
Yeah.
I guess.
So I'm quite happy for you to equip your characters as you see fit. And just to let you know, in preparation for next Thursday, you are going to be summoned. There's a bit of an issue that somebody has, and they wish you to investigate it. So your character, Chugs, is probably in it for the opportunity for fame and fortune and taking pictures, and your character, Mr. Pickles, is probably in there because you think it might be some kind of reconciliation if you stamp out the evil in the world. And yeah, then we can go from there. It's interesting. Does it have the character sheets? It gives all those things. Yeah, no, there's nothing. Some of them talk about fellow investigators, but I don't think you need that. Now, this is the honest truth. I understand the green role. I don't understand the other role at all. So I will be going with the green.
Well, what does it do?
What? Which one?
What's the difference when you roll them, or is there no difference?
Yeah, one gives you the value, the rolled, and then +1 +1, 0 -1 -2. The other one just gives you the 3 values. So your skill in power must be 50. And so I think you need to get below that. So you failed across the board there.
Right.
I always do spot hidden. Let's see if I can get. So can you see there? I've succeeded, but so it's below 25. So I've succeeded. But if it was a hard spot hidden, then I haven't succeeded because I rolled 14, and the hard would be 12. And then the harder one would be 5. So that it gives you sort of like, so there's no sort of like, can you see that one now? Can you see I've actually succeeded in the hard roll?
Yeah, I'm with you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's nice. And so it's a bit like, it's the same as with fail, same as Mithras, almost. Apart from it's only got 3 instead of however many Mithras has. Cool. So is there anything else you need to work out about your character at this point?
Do we know each other?
That's up to you guys. Is there a connection between you both?
Because I'm perfectly happy. We had talked a little bit, Chugs and I, about potential connections. As I've said, I wanted to be a private investigator, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm the only one in this company. I could have a partner, could have an employed cohort.
Yeah.
I'm fine with blood relatives, or if an in-law relative could be, something too. I don't know how strong that would be.
And also, how does Longshanks' character come into all this as well? As the doctor, not as the doctor, but as a doctor, medicine, person. What do you think, Chugs? Do you see people knowing each other or not?
I think they're going to have to know each other to a certain extent. Otherwise, it's just going to be a bit weird that all of a sudden they're all together.
My character is driven and your character is ambitious. If we both get kind of like, if I get hired on to investigate and you're showing up because you really want to get the best footage, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I can see those two fitting together okay, because they could also probably use each other more as a contact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea, and I've just thought about a way. It will probably on the first sort of like job. What I can then say is almost like, and my friend here, Doctor So and So, needs
I think he
to
wants to be called Dr. Watson.
uh, can actually accompany you, or there's some reason for this third person to sort of like come along, unless of course you want to make it that you all know each other at the beginning, and you might have had encounters with each other before, you might got to have known the psychologist, doctor, medicine person for a particular reason, and then that would sort of like link you together as a team, to go out and investigate. So you can probably chat about that together in preparation for next Thursday. So is there anything else on that we need to cover tonight?
do you think that there will be a lot of global travel in this campaign?
No.
Okay.
I think there's enough in London to keep us happy for some time.
I'm going to take off hot air ballooning off mine.
I was thinking I don't have any survival skills. If we're going to Africa, I've got nothing.
And I almost like see it very much like Shadowrun, that it's only when you get more and more developed that you actually start to go off to different places. I think, to be honest with you, I think there's so much that can actually happen in London. It's it would be silly to sort of like move away from it, because it's such a it's so full of opportunities, as I would like to say.
Yeah.
So, brilliant. So, anything else? Are you guys happy to talk about the connection in preparation for next Thursday?
Yeah,
Is that all right?
I am.
Yeah. And then
Absolutely.
And then at the beginning, what I'll do is that I'll say to you guys, and include Longshank's EPG as well, and say, so tell me, that'll be almost like the starting point. Tell me how you all, come together in a team, and then we can move on to the first interesting investigation, and see whether or not you can solve it. Da, da, da. Excellent. Right. So, if there's nothing else that we need to do, then I'll move on to that thing, and we'll say, therefore, anybody who's watching, thank you very much for coming along tonight. I hope you enjoyed to seeing these characters develop, and we look forward to next Thursday when we'll see the developed characters actually in action and see whether or not. So get your accent. Chugs, will you be doing a Cockney accent?
Probably not, no.
Oh, what a shame.
Probably not, but I'm expecting lots of Cockney accents from you.
Yeah, well, I found a YouTube video, Teach Yourself Cockney.
I actually looked at maybe being German and watched a whole load of YouTube videos on how to talk with a German accent.
Yeah, excellent.
I couldn't manage it. So.
Okay, cool. So we will be back next week at 7 o'clock for the first episode of the Call of Cthulhu sessions. So if you'd like to come and join us in, then that'd be absolutely fine. Until then, I would just like to say have fun. And I'll catch you all later. And until then, consider yourself well and truly. Whoops, I changed the screen too quick.